21st, 2025 meeting of the Beacon City School District Board of Education. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Vicki, can you call the roll? Here. Here. Delayed.
Here.
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 Here. Here. Matt, can you review the fire exits?
Exits are in the back of the LGI.
Very good. Okay, open to the public. Does anyone have a public comment they would like to make? Seeing none, we can start with our workshop. Tonight, our workshop is about Policy 5695. This has been revised to align with new state law regarding internet-enabled personal devices, aka mostly phones.
All right. So I put together just some kind of basic slides for tonight. I'll kind of quickly go through and try to explain some of the thinking behind what we're doing. Also try to talk about the context of some of like the bigger issues at play. And Corey Dwyer and Brian Soltish are here from the high school and the middle school to answer. We kind of thought it might be best that they do a lot of the question answering. I'll do the slide part, and here we go. All right, so we have this new law was passed at the time of the budget, and it's so banning all personal internet-enabled devices in schools for students. So just reviewing some of the basics here, the ban is for the entirety of the school day. The bell-to-bell designation confused a lot of people. Some folks thought, oh, that just means like, the classroom bell, and they could have it between classes. It is from the, first bell in the morning to the last bell. Covers all aspects of the school grounds. The law requires a policy to be adopted by August 1st. It requires storage devices to be identified or devices, plural. Law requires families to have one or more ways to contact students during the day, not directly, but through school staff. So we'll talk about some of these things as we work through this. So one of the other things the law required was getting input from your community. Districts did it lots of different ways. Some created like a small committee of different stakeholders. We decided to do a survey and take that feedback and then sort of designing it. Designing a lot of details was me, Corey, and Brian, with also being back in touch with our Teachers Association president, Christina Dahl, and also the Board Policy Committee. We've had lots of conversations about this. So we had a lot of people fill out. We had our probably highest number of students filling out a survey than I've ever had, so that was cool to see. So we had 278 people fill it out. It's pretty much equally divided between staff, students, and parents, caregivers. I'll get a little bit deeper than what I wrote on the slides, but main takeaways, there's broad support for the new law, but there's just an incredible variance in all the details, which is kind of, what life is all about. So and that's what we're going to be figuring out. We figured out some of it, and we'll be figuring out some as we go this year. Students, the main concern from the students is they felt like they adhere to the current policy, and they put a lot into that, and so they felt, and we knew this was coming, but they felt a sense of like, hey, why is this happening? Like, we kind of did what you asked. So that will be part of when we're explaining it when the kids come back to school. That'll be part of what we talk about, that this is like a larger state initiative and a law that we have to follow. And, whenever we do put our phones away, it does improve focus and concentration. It does for me. So that will be part of our communicating with them. A large number of teachers and staff filled it out too. Again, it was kind of split almost equally between those three main groups. Teachers were asking for just really clear language, consistent implementation. Majority of the teachers also were really specific about asking for, I hate to use the brand name, but Yonder pouches essentially. It's kind of a proprietary thing. So a large group of teachers asked for that. And then the parent group was our most I don't want to say split because there was a lot of variance, but just a lot of different opinions. I didn't ask specifically like, are you for or against this? But I would say probably 30 to 40% of parents filling it out had a lot of, serious questions about it, like, about contacting their student, feeling like, part of them feeling safe about school is being in touch with their child, things like that. And then a lot of parents, a large number of parents just really in support of the whole thing. And, excited that this was taking place. So we tried to take all that information, and what we tried to focus on is where there was consensus. And we thought there was consensus around creating clear procedures in schools. Clear consequences was something we really heard from parents and teachers, and also trying to really work on the communication channels between home and school. So our plan is pretty simple. I should also say one other part of the development with this is other school districts. We don't live in a vacuum. So I've had a lot of conversations with my superintendent colleagues, not only in Dutchess County, but in the Hudson Valley. We've also done some meetings, both sort of Dutchess-wide and then also region-wide. And I will say this, like what we're laying out here is very, very similar to almost every single other district in the region. And I'll get to that in a second. So elementary students will stay pretty much the same as they were last year, that if they have an internet-enabled personal device, it has to be stored away for the entirety of the day. And, cubby or backpacks we feel are fine for elementary students because they're not carrying their backpack around. Their backpack is stored away. So that will be what we're doing for elementary. That's what we have been doing. For Roundabout and BHS students, they'll be asked to store their personal internet-enabled devices in their lockers at the start of the day. What our huge focus is going to be on is dealing with kids who are trying to access phones during the day, whether it's going back to their locker to access it or in other ways too. And so we have kind of a set list of consequences that we put into the policy. The first time a student will be asked to go to their assistant principal, or in some cases the principal's office. All of our administrator offices at Roundabout and the high school have, they've already arrived. We purchased small cell phone lockers that are lockable for each of those administrators. So a student for the first time will have to store their device in one of these lockable lockers in an administrator's office for the rest of the day. Second time is for the rest of the week or 5 days. Third time is 10 days, and so on and so forth. We do reserve the right to have a student have to do that every single day if they've hit the 5th time for the remainder of the school year. So, the thing that we're really going to be trying to enforce at the beginning of the year is familiarizing kids with their lockers. That's going to take a bit of time, especially at the middle school. So we're already working on plans for that. They already do that, but we're going to do that, very much right at the beginning of the school year. And then also just really focusing on if we see a student accessing their phone, that we respond to it immediately. So just in terms of, let me go back. No, I can say here. The part, I didn't make a slide for this, but the one part that I think has been a little bit confusing, maybe that's not the right word, but for the general public and honestly for us superintendents, really until a few weeks ago, was the funds for this. So when there was early discussions at the state level, a lot of the conversations amongst legislators and the governor was that we're going to pay for this. Our districts were receiving funds to do this. So I do want to be clear to the board. We've talked about this a lot at our level. We reached out to the Yonder Company a few times just to get like a quote, talk about our needs as a district if we decided to do that. A quote from Yonder has not a lot of the unlocking magnets or the proprietary magnets that they have. So to make it work, you have to add some. But even their base Their base estimate for our two schools, Roundabout and the high school, was around $72,000, and then we would probably want to add enough magnets to make like the end of the day doable. So we were probably looking really more at $80,000. I share that because the money that was allocated to Beacon, we got this number just a couple of weeks ago, is $13,000. So it's not even anywhere in the ballpark of doing that. It's not the only reason why we're doing what we're doing with storage, but it is one of the things. We have to be real about the financial impact of this and the fact that
Is the $13,000 covering the lockers that you bought?
Yes.
To,
I mean, we're not spending $13,000 on those lockers. I think it's about six or seven. So we're either kind of reserving the other 6 or 7 because there might be something we need that we discover once this goes, or there may be things like in the lunchrooms that we realize that we need. Games, equipment. So we'll look at that to use that. The state is just requiring us to like keep track of how we spend it, and then we have to fill out a survey at some point during the year to account for what it is. I know the governor and the legislature have a lot of things on their mind, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time sort of bashing the amount of money. It's just a reality, though, around this, that it's a fraction of what that would cost. Other people who are maybe more mathematically ambitious, looked at the $13 million across the state and figured out that it was going to be around that, and I was maybe remaining hopeful or something that it was going to end up being more. But we were always kind of thinking it was probably going to be around there. So that is a part of all of this too. It's just a reality. When I do my superintendent's report tonight, I was going to talk a little bit more about like the federal funding freeze that's going on. And just briefly, I'll say in terms of this presentation we have about $100,000 that's being held back right now for Title II, III, and IV. And I'm not trying to equate these two things, but we have to be really mindful about money always. But then with all of this uncertainty from the federal level, we have to kind of factor that in to everything we do too. So that's just a little bit about the storage device. I will also note that the only storage device actually mentioned by name in the law itself was lockers. So, I think every school administrator noticed that, but it's like the one that they named in the law. So I think the survey of districts, I don't know which districts, but about 50 Hudson Valley districts filled out a survey, and 48 of them out of the 50 are doing some version of this with student lockers. 2 that filled out the survey are doing Yonder, and they were already doing Yonder before this year. So communication is a part of this that we are still working on in terms of all the details. But by mid-August, we'll have a really detailed contact page that'll guide families about who to contact during the day to share messages with their child. Email addresses and phone numbers will be provided. Like very specific, like my child, I need to pick my child up. This is who I call. That just to review that with everybody. Email addresses, phone numbers will be provided in a kind of a really visual way. We'll find lots of different ways to share that so parents have it kind of at their fingertips and they can get in touch with the school. Well, also, obviously with staff approval, but where students will have different times that they can use a school phone to call their parents during the day. This is just an acknowledgement of the large amount of texting that happens at lunchtime I'll speak as a middle school parent, between middle school and high school kids and their parents in terms of like what's happening at the end of the day. So we've been brainstorming like other ways to notify parents about like things that get canceled, practices, those kinds of things. So we want to talk with the folks involved a little bit more before we roll that out, but we know that's a big part of it. Just speaking for myself, I received a number of those updates from my son just about what was happening after school at lunch, and I know I'm not the only one. So we do need to, especially at the middle school, find ways of replacing that because that's not available obviously anymore. And then we have the exemptions in the law. It allows for exemptions through IEPs, 504s, what they call caregiver status, and then translation services. We feel at least right now translation services can be done on a Chromebook, but it was written into the law, so we do want to at least acknowledge that that was there. IEPs and 504s, it very well could be something that's needed, and we're going to work that out for each individual child. We want to put that information out to families right around August 1st, right at the beginning of when this policy officially gets implemented statewide, just so they know who to contact. 504 is the same thing. Several of our students have the need for health reasons to have a internet-enabled personal device, and we want to make sure their 504s are ready to go at the start of the year. One thing that we're seeing is a lot of, I can't put a number to it, but a lot of our students already have some of these things written into their 504s and IEPs, so, but we'll be working through it with everyone. Caregiver status is something, according to the law, that students will like apply to their principal to get. I will say, especially for like the caregiver one, it does not mean that those specific students get to just walk around all day with their phone and everyone else can't. They'll still have to have their phone away. It's just there may be certain times of the day that they have to access their phone. You know, it's going to be, that's going to be the difference. They're not just kind of allowed to have their phone out in front of everyone all day. So I was going to, you know, like I said, I was going to go through the slides. I'm going to ask Corey and Brian to come up here to just answer questions folks have. You know, I will say this too, like, we still, there's, especially around the communication part, there's details we're still trying to kind of figure out and master. And but we see the month of August, the entire month of August being a really key communication time for us in terms of reminding people about this, talking about the exemptions, how to qualify for one, just also talking about the different ways to communicate with the school. Is there anything
Okay.
before questions start that you all want to add?
Okay. Well, I'll kick off the Q&A portion then. I know, especially at the middle school, a lot of students, including my own, don't really use their lockers. And a lot of that, they say, is about the difficulty in getting to them and getting to and from class. So I just wanted to hear a little bit about how you're going to integrate the lockers more into the students' day so that they're more comfortable being able to leave their phones and then get to class, et cetera, et cetera.
It's a good question. I was asking Dr. Landau for a new capital project. We're going to restructure the building now. So part of this that can work for the middle school is we really do want middle school students to learn to use their lockers, and this obviously is going to force more of them to go at the start of every day to their locker to access it. So step one for us is teaching them to use their locker right at the start of the year, especially sixth graders. But even our seventh and eighth graders, there's a large number that haven't really learned to use a locker. So we're going to have to build in at the start of our year additional time for the students to practice opening lockers and ensure that everybody can get in and out of their locker without issues. Once we do that, I am currently looking at revamping where the lockers are. There's no great spot to put lockers at the middle school that a student is going to be able to have great access all day long, because the rooms are spread out throughout the building and the lockers are spread out throughout the building. So they're always going to be at some points close to their lockers and at lots of points further away. We are going to aim to align as much as we can their eighth period class with their locker, so that when they're getting out at the end of the day, the locker is in close proximity to where they are eighth period, so that there's a little less stress on them as they're trying to head to the bus area or get picked up. They get to their locker, they can get their phone. So at the start of the day, they'll have plenty of time. We'll build that in where when they come into school, they'll have additional time to get to the locker. So we don't foresee a problem prior to class. So they'll have plenty of time to get to the locker and then get to class. And at the end of the day, we're hoping that majority of the students will have lockers near period 8. It's difficult when you have students that have like the A-B day class, period 8, because if they have phys ed on the A day and art on the B day, those are obviously going to be, that's going to be a pull. But those are few cases where we have that. Things that I'm going to work on with the staff is as we build a new bell schedule for next year, adjusting for the start of the day and the end of the day. We have the ability, if we want, to increase the time on our hall changes. We're not positive that we're going to do that yet. We currently do 4-minute hall changes, so 6th grade has 4, then 7th and 8th have 4. We have the ability in our schedule currently, if we wanted to push it to 5 minutes, which would give them a little more time. I'm going to speak with some of our staff about that. I mean, there's a positive and a negative. Positive is they have more time to get to their locker if they'd like to. The negative is we don't know that we really want them going to the locker constantly for the phone.
Sure.
We'd like them to use the locker start of the day, lunchtime, end of the day, and that would be a vast improvement from what many have or are currently doing, which is just loading everything into their backpacks. But we are going to look at possibly expanding the time on the hall changes to allow them a little more access to the lockers.
This is just my opinion. I think the majority of kids will easily have time in the morning to go to their locker.
Yeah, sure.
I think if Brian is able to adjust this 8th period part, that will help most of the kids get to the bus on time.
Sure.
It's that sort of, do they have time to go to it between classes, like from a cell phone or I'm trying to say personal device more. From a personal device standpoint, we don't really want them going all the
Right,
time,
that's
right?
not relevant, but the other times, yeah.
So I think it's really doable, but it is going to be a shift for like 8th graders who may not be used to doing it. I think the 6th graders, you'll be able to get right into it.
You know, at the start of the year, you have a lot of time where you can build in like special schedules where all the students have like time to go to their locker, work on opening it, and identify who's having issues with their locker, who's not having issues. I'm also going to ask for a lot of locker keys so that we have more locker keys throughout the building so that at the end of the day, if they're having an issue getting in, we can kind of just pop them open so they can get to their devices and what they need without like somebody having to key it in for them or turn the combo.
The state has been super clear that they don't want any adjustment period, like they don't want any easing into this. Like we got to start hard on this on the first day. That said, like we have 6th graders, right? Like who are coming from
It's got to be
elementary
realistic,
school and they're
yeah.
having to navigate classes and lockers. And so I know like the 6th grade team in general at Roundabout is so good at kind of getting 6th graders used to all of it. And the administrators are really good at this too. And so like there's, especially with the 6th grade, we're going to have to work with them. And I don't want them so stressed about this that they're like, it creates some level of fear or something. Like we want them to feel good about going to their locker and putting it away, so it's going to take a little while. Because one of my favorite things is to go over to Roundabout when they're training the 6th graders on the lockers, because it's just, I don't know, kind of cute, for lack of a better word. Like it takes them a while and they have a lot of questions. So like for that age kids, this is going to take a little bit for them to get used to doing this.
Sure.
I mean, on day one, they don't come to school already having their locker number or their combo. So on day one, I mean, it's obviously going to need to be in their backpack until they get a locker actually assigned to them. So they don't have to like panic about coming in on day one and running to a locker. The first day of school, we still have to give them their locker, get it open. And then, we'll work with them on getting it in there and doing the right thing. But it will be a slight, phase in at the middle school for getting into their lockers and putting the devices in them.
Well, and if you're moving 8th period,
Right.
so you're going to have 7th and 8th graders getting new ones.
Right.
Conceivably too, so.
And encouraging them to use it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not something they've really, at least my kids didn't, they were like, no. So,
We have a large number of students that they like their backpacks.
Yes.
And they carry everything.
so it'll be a culture shift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Were there any other questions about this?
What about field trips? Are they allowed to? We didn't talk about that at policy.
No.
I imagine the big ones.
I mean, yeah.
A regular school day field trip, it would be no. It needs to be stored away. At Roundabout, as everyone knows, 7th graders go to Boston eighth graders go to DC, like they're gonna have to have them with them just for a whole host of reasons, in terms of like the way they communicate with kids there. So for those, I'm gonna say yes, but like just we're going to, I'm trying to think of just like a day trip.
City or something.
Yeah, the Bardavon for something else, no, it's gotta be stored away. Because once we start, like on the bus ride to school in the morning, kids can have, that's clear. Kids can have their phone, right? They haven't gotten to the storage place yet. But, yeah.
So once they get to high school or middle school, they can't, backpack is not an option for their books or anything? They can no longer do that? They have to go to the locker in between every class?
No, they can have their backpack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
That tends to be where they're storing everything currently, is in their backpack.
Yeah, no,
We'd
that's
like-
what it's not
We would like them to utilize their locker at least a little bit during the day to.
Okay,
But for sure backpacks are still.
okay, I was like, oh no.
If we ban backpacks,
No, God,
that would be
you're
a.
right.
Then we're in trouble.
I will say, I think that, I'm glad you're looking at it as an adjustment period, because I think this will be, I mean, people communicate by text. No one calls anyone anymore. And so just the idea that now you have to go to the office and they probably have to look up your parent's number because you don't know it, or whoever you have to call, and hopefully they do have the number of the person you want to call. You know, it's a tricky thing, and I think that we're just used to the convenience of it. So I do feel like there's gonna have to be some,
We've looked into
Passion.
and we're gonna continue to do this search, but, you know, there's a lot of, implementation guides out there, and, NICET has an implementation guide, that's statewide teachers association. And, you know, they mentioned one school district in central New York that allows students to email their parents. And I even called the superintendent, and he said, well, we really have to filter it and put all these things in place. And when, you know, we met as a tech team about it, and our tech team was like, absolutely not, like, it's just not safe for our kids to have unfettered outside email access, like, because we can't just allow parent emails in, right? It'd be sort of opening up to everyone. We reached out to the Remind company, because Remind is a tool that, like, you know, that they use on the DC and Boston trips, and we, some teachers use it, some teachers use like Dojo, but we were wondering, is there a way that a student on a Chromebook could communicate with a parent? It's funny, I must have been not the first person to ask, because I got like this response back in like 2 minutes later, and they were just like, it is just utterly not in compliance with Ed Law 2D, the student privacy law, for like a third party company to be hosting, this is their interpretation, to be hosting private communication, right, between like, you know, parents and students. So, but we're gonna keep looking, you know, because like, you're right, it's gonna be a huge change, and I don't have like some easy solution to it. I do know, you know, I mentioned, I don't want to talk too much about my own stuff as a parent, but like, I know at the middle school level, like, stuff just changes after school, and whether it's athletics or a club. And I think high school, kids are older, it's a little bit different, but we're trying to look at some ways at the middle school that, like, a parent gets a direct notification that, like, jazz band is canceled because the teacher's sick, or, you know, I mean, not that we have to give a reason, but jazz band is canceled, or this thing is being rescheduled, or whatever. Because that is the stuff that over the years we've grown used to our kids, for the most part, telling us, and that's not happening anymore. So especially at the middle school level, Brian is looking at some ways to do some of those communications, just so a parent knows, my kid is getting on the bus today instead of staying till 3:45, or, you know, that kind of thing. But I know, Brian, and I think this may be more at the middle school level too, you've talked about, like, at lunchtime, kids will have an opportunity, as long as they're not abusing it, to like go to guidance and call a parent. I think at high school it's a little trickier to completely open that up, and that's something we'd monitor, but we want to help students through this process too.
but they're not allowed to like take their phone to guidance to use it, it has to be a landline from the school.
Yes.
Okay.
So is there any plan, when you send out correspondence to the parents before the school year starts, to remind them to provide their kids with their cell phone numbers and contact information? You plan on sending that out?
Some of it will come from me, but high school and Roundabout both do a great job of communicating, and I want a lot of it to come from the school level. Like, I mean, we're also going to tell all parents to hide their kid's phone for the last week. No, I'm just kidding. Like, crash course, get them used to it.
Good luck.
But yeah, we're going to have like, especially probably mid-August, there's just going to be a stream of communication about preparing for this.
And the caregiver status, I'm assume you'll communicate how to get, like, qualified with.
I mean, it's subjective.
Right, is it just
The
a
state didn't
like a
provide like a
parent?
formula. What's that?
Would it just be a parent saying, my son or daughter, my child is a caregiver for my other child, or,
I mean, we would want to vet it and talk to the parent. At the high school level, very well, maybe the high school student writing Mr. Dwyer. I mean, we heard about that at one of our board meetings last year around this time. You know, one of our student advisors did a lot of taking care of our younger siblings. And so I could see at the high school level as students writing Mr. Dwyer, and he has to, you know, he and his team, and we obviously will help, we'll sift through that. And the one thing that was really clear, talking with our attorneys, talking with other districts, kind of looking at different guidances, it's also, we have to be clear, this doesn't, like I said, it doesn't mean you get to wear your beats in the hallway, and you know what I mean, and have your phone out the whole time and no one else does. It just means that you'll be able to access it a little bit more easily than someone else. That's all.
and will there be any sort of, like, survey of the students, just to, that maybe we could look back on, or do another survey at the end of the year to just kind of see how their feelings about it have changed? If, I mean, I'd be curious to know, like, I doubt anyone's super excited about it right now, but maybe they do see, you know, you read all these really, like, incredible stories on the internet, how it changed everything to not have phones.
Well, we didn't directly survey it, but we have a ton of anecdotal data from this past year where students were really talking about, like, wow, like concertedly putting away for each class really
Did
helped.
make a difference.
It wasn't just a small number, it was like a wide kind of swath of kids. I think that sort of led to their, I don't want to sound dramatic, but their sense of betrayal, for lack of a better word. They were like, we really put a lot into this, and then it got sort of the rug got pulled out from us. But that said, I mean, we've been batting around just doing our own surveying of students in general this year, like a couple times, and so I think we would just add that.
I think that would be great. I mean, I had to give my phone to my husband the other day because he lost his, and God, what a great day it was, I have to say. Like, I just really felt a little calmer, and, you know, luckily no emergencies happened and I didn't need it, but it is an interesting exercise to not have access to it.
So some of the other communication we'll do, there is just in general, this isn't just a Beacon thing, kind of an uncertainty about if there's like something happening at the school, like a lockdown or something like that. And so, we're just going to have to reassure folks, like, we'll always be communicating through that, through our communication, our communication device or tool that we have that, texts and calls and emails parents, and then just like a couple other suggestions that I've gotten just recently, like we'll do an FAQ and build that over August. And a parent wrote, after I sent out that email, a parent just wrote, like, will you make adjustments to this? Are you going to say, of course we will. We'll come back and talk about it at the board level. We tried to write the policy in a way that we might not have to completely redo the policy to make an adjustment. But we're probably going to have to do that. I want to figure out some way that Corey's going to. Corey, what are your final thoughts on the? He's just anything to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, tricky. I think to the point of like we really tried to invest the students last year in the classroom policy, and I stood in front of them and I said like, hey, like if you do this right, then we don't have to worry about anything stricter. And then the law comes. I mean, kids are generally pretty good at understanding that our hands are tied. It is what it is. Every school has to do this, so we just have to kind of get on board. But and they were great this year. Like if we caught them with the phone in class and they went to their AP office, we didn't have like any resistance from students about turning the phone in. So we're not necessarily anticipating any more of that. Like if we say, like you got to take the L on this one, we saw you with your phone, like we're taking the phone. We don't necessarily expect there to be like a lot of problem from that. But the no hallways and lunchroom is a big adjustment for us. So a lot of messaging we had to do with the students around that.
Brian and I were talking about this earlier. Just to see how it was going this year, I spent more time in the middle school lunch cafeteria than high school. But it was fascinating for me to see like the low number of kids at the middle school who had their device out. And it's like, of course, middle school kids, like they want to talk at lunch, right? Like they've been focused on their classes all morning. And so I do think like just, it's like an age thing a little bit, like the transition's going to be, I think the middle school transition is probably going to be smoother. It's just my prediction. And I think just based on the survey, it was clear that the high school students put it around, like fill this thing out. Because it was a lot, probably like 60 or so high school kids filled it out. And so they, something they feel really strongly about. So it's just something that it probably just is going to hit different with them than it will with middle school kids.
Anybody else? Well, you referenced beats and you said hit different, so you are down with the kids.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I mean, I had dinner with the fam before tonight. Are you doing the phone policy? Like, are you sure about this?
Well, yeah, and I want to thank you guys and also the policy committee and the board and the community for finding a way through a law that I think has good intentions,
Oh,
but
for sure.
difficult implementation.
I think we've gotten so into like the implementation side and the shift for kids, like as everyone's been saying, like every single person has that same story, like, oh, when my phone was away for, the whole day or 5 hours or whatever, I just got so much more done, or I was so much more focused. Like that's going to happen here, and we're really excited about that.
For sure. Okay, well, that's it then.
Thanks for coming.
Last chance. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, reviewing the agenda, we want to make a couple of quick changes and move a couple of things ahead of the executive session because the folks are here tonight. So we are going to vote on HH1 and EE1. So can I get a motion for HH1 to appoint Marissa Benson as probationary assistant principal at Roundabout Middle School?
So moved.
Second? Second by Meredith. Comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Okay, passes 9-0. Congratulations. I think we should clap. I did want to say, as a parent of kids who have been in your classroom and who love you, I'm very excited about this, so congratulations. Okay, and next, EE1. Can I get a motion to appoint Grace Racino as probationary physical education teacher at South Avenue Elementary?
So moved.
Okay, second? Second by Meredith. All comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0. And that's it. Congratulations. All right. Can I get a motion? See, turning all this around messed me up. Can I get a motion to move to executive session to review the employment history of a particular individual?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0. The board will return in about 45 minutes. Matt, do you want to do your superintendent's report?
Sure. I have just some kind of more business updates and then an advocacy thing at the end. I just wanted to start by saying I'm interested, whether we do this kind of outside the meeting, whatever's more effective in getting committees going, potentially in August if possible. So first one I want to mention is August 11th. I want to check with Facilities Committee folks if they're available at 6 o'clock before the meeting. The thinking being at the August 11th meeting, the facilities team would present like the whole timeline for the capital project to the entire board. But they want to kind of do a run through with the committee at 6 o'clock. So does that work for facilities?
I was actually going to ask because I couldn't remember if we
Okay.
were doing something or not. It
Yeah.
works for me. I don't,
It works for me.
Okay.
it's great. So
Um,
6.
So, yeah. And so then, and again, trying to do all this in this meeting does not, but I think it would make sense for like we have a new committee this year, the HR committee. And I think it would be good to have an initial meeting where it's just me and, members of my team, like kind of like talking about how we want that committee to work before we start having principals come in and, department heads and stuff like that to talk about people. So if that, whatever makes sense for people, we want to get moving with the finance audit. So I'll reach out to the folks on that committee. Like, I think it'd be great to start before the school year starts there. And then lastly, with Prawl, obviously, there's always something with advocacy, which
Yeah.
I'm going to get to in a second. So I just wanted to put that out there. Like, most of our, when I say our, I'm kind of talking about me and members of my team. We're mostly done with vacations, like by the end of July, and so it's not perfect, but we'd love to get moving on committees in August. So we're starting before the school year starts. Even if a lot of those are just kind of like setting a map for the year, that kind of thing. Just in terms of the upcoming board meetings, August, as I mentioned, August 11th, we want our whole facilities team to present on the entire timeline for this new capital project that we're entering into, the 2024 one. So, and Anne Marie, are we able to do a nutrition update that night too?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm not sure which night I told him.
Okay. We may also have a presentation from Anthony, our new food service director, just so you can kind of get to know him, but also like he can do a presentation about his department and how we're doing something different with BOCES this year, or this past year we were in, and this upcoming year. So that's for sure the facilities updates happening. So that'll be our architect, construction manager, Perry Sheldon, our consultant, our capital project consultant, Jesse. Like, they'll do a whole presentation and really get into the timeline part. And then we'll take that information and put it out to the public so the public kind of sees the whole timeline. I mentioned this in an update to the community, but one thing that we're trying to get done this summer, like it's hard, but we did 2 playground upgrades, Forestal and South Avenue. We then kind of took the same amount of money. We had a little bit of money left over in this 2021 capital project, and so we're trying to get it done this summer with Glenham and Sargent. Kind of similar budgets. Principals have talked with their staff about new pieces, new playground pieces there. And then we had a bit more left to try to do something at Roundabout in terms of play equipment. The part of the blacktop area that where the Gaga pit is, to add a whole bunch of like play equipment back there. This is a super busy time for companies that do this. So we're running into a little bit of issues trying to nail them down. But we'd love to try to get this done this summer or this fall. The August 25th board meeting. So we want to give as much information as possible to the board about a week ahead of time, so by August 18th. But we want to sort of at least start presenting like the draft of the strategic plan / board goals that we would then, like, at one of those September meetings, ask the board to adopt. So just to briefly refresh your memory, we were kind of trying to focus a plan around 4 key areas: academic excellence, culture of care, communication / community outreach, and then the last one being fiscal, facilities, HR. And so what we're trying to do here is just have really easy to read, a lot of bullet points, like so the members of the public can digest it easily and not overwhelmed with like 30-page documents, but like, here's our plan for reading, here's our plan for special education services, here's our plan for math instruction, like, here's our communication plan, here's our plan for like the positivity project, here's our HR plan for the year. I'm talking about like 1 page. There may be some background materials, but like 1-page overviews with bullet points of major actions and then how we're measuring success on there. My other goal with this is that we do 3 updates a year to the boards. Obviously, then it would be to the community regarding where we are with this. So kind of like a late fall, early winter update, a early spring kind of area. I haven't quite worked out the timeline. And then end of year, summer kind of update that we're looking at different metrics. So what we share with you on the 18th, prior to that board meeting, it's something that we want to refine and build. So like if there's ideas, things we need to add, take away, whatever, like I want that conversation to start on the 25th and then go into probably one of those September meetings. And I think that hopefully my goal is that answers the question of how do board goals fit in, because I want to merge the two. So we'll be working the next few weeks on putting these short kind of plan overviews together. We're also working with our communications team to make it be something that's really visually appealing and something that's easy for folks to digest. We don't want it to be overwhelming, but we want it every year to provide like a clear roadmap to what our different focus areas are and kind of our roadmap each year too. So we're excited about that. And then lastly, I just wanted to update you all just in terms of I forget the national amount of money, it's in the billions, but the federal government has been withholding funds to public school districts. And so, I've started to get questions about how does that impact Beacon. There was a little part of it released, but that's not money that Beacon accesses. That's money that we don't really qualify for. It's like after school programming. So where it impacts us, I'll just quickly walk through this. The first one is Title II funding. That's $61,887. That's mostly professional development. So that's Science of Reading, our Science 21 program, Responsive Classroom, just to name a few. So we pay for a lot of the PD we do through Title II. Title III is a much smaller amount. It's $6,900. That's for E&L services that we get through BOCES. What are those E&L services that BOCES provides? Okay. And then Title IV, our contractual services. So we have contracts with different providers like the Positivity Project. We have contracts with, I forget the company, but we're doing those camps for 9th graders and kids wanting to students wanting to access like higher level classes at the high school. Those programs are happening in August. So I forgot to write down that amount. I think that amount is how much? $32,000. So it's roughly around $100,000. So obviously some of these things are like in motion, right? We have people RSVPing at the high school for those, those camps for students. I know there's been advocacy at the state level I know there was an event in Kingston on Friday. I wasn't able to attend, but some superintendents from the area were able to go. So I just wanted to at least start by letting you know what it is, how much it is, and what it impacts. We can get into greater detail as time goes on. I don't, obviously, I have as much of a crystal ball as anyone else. I'm not really sure what the thinking is behind all of this, but that's one aspect of what we're thinking. Just lastly, I know I've been talking a lot tonight, but I kind of mentioned it with the phone thing. We are, you know, we have concerns. I think every district's saying the same thing with this, at least the instability around funding from the federal level. And even it could be something like this, Title II, Title III, and Title IV, or it could be something about the way Medicaid impacts, Medicaid cuts to states and how that impacts state funding and us trying. I already had a conversation with Emery this morning about preparing for the governor to say off the bat next spring, hey, I gave everyone more foundation aid last year. You're not getting it this year, right? Like, I think it's just best for us to be preparing for these kinds of things with all of the changes from the White House and the federal government. So, not trying to be gloom and doom, but it's just something that we're trying to have in our thinking now, in terms of, our operations this year, but also thinking about planning for the 26-27 year too. But this funding, we have what was our budget that we voted on this year? 85 million. So $100,000, right? It's a small portion of 85 million. However, like, we've relied on these funds for years to do these things. And when we have to replace this with our own funding, then, we're having to make decisions about things that we haven't had to make decisions about before, right, in terms of PD. And PD typically is one of the lesser funded things, unfortunately, in most districts, including ours. So losing that federal funding has an impact. So I just wanted to start bringing awareness. I've had some media questions about it. In terms of advocacy, I'm not really sure what the advocacy is for something like this, but I think awareness is important. So if it's something that the board was interested in writing a letter to the public about, I know when the board writes a letter about something regarding this, the public really pays attention when we send it out. So just throwing out some ideas. I can certainly update the community just in regards to what it means for us right now. But it's just kind of like a suggestion more than anything. I know when I send like board advocacy letters out, people really pay attention. So that's all.
I
That's
would
all I have.
love if the board would be willing to write a letter to Linda McMahon about, how it's impacting us. I think that would be really important, and if we could share that with the public, they can write her also. So maybe that's our first problem.
I think that's a good idea, and I think that is the first problem. Do we want to set that meeting since everybody's here?
You're gone the week of the 10th? Mm-hmm. I'm gone the week before. I'm around next week.
I am around Monday through Thursday. Who else is on prom?
Catherine, Chris, are you on?
Which committee is this?
Prawl? Let me look back at the.
Vicki, do you remember? I'm looking on the website.
Yeah, same.
It actually wasn't updated on the website, I noticed.
It's in the agenda.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
I'm pulling it up too.
Okay, so it's just Semra, Catherine, you, and me. So, yeah. Congratulations, you're on prom. I think you had requested, well, anyway.
Looks like she's having some regret now.
I know, she's like, wait a minute, what did I do? So, yes, that first week of August, would Monday work for people? Monday
I
evening?
could do it at 6. I mean, this is also something we could probably do over email, because I think it's pretty straightforward, just,
Yeah.
August 4th?
I'm out of town.
So do you want to rather than do it this way, just do it over email instead of trying to schedule a meeting?
Well, I can do it Monday at 6, can you do 6 o'clock, or is that too early? The 28th?
Monday, the 28th, I see. Yes, I can do Monday, the 28th at 6. That is fine.
I'm gonna be away, but if you want to just focus on the letter.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fine.
okay. All right, we are
Do you have
having,
any insight into the potential impacts of Medicaid cuts? Like any speculative numbers about what? Because I think that might, the sooner we start that conversation, the better. And that would be a letter to our congresspeople. Especially because a lot of the debate around that didn't seem to be focusing on how it would impact public schools.
Yeah.
not at all.
So I think that's another layer that's worth getting some attention, and then share it with the media so it gets covered.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Well, let's maybe talk this week, because if we could do both, that would be worthwhile. So if we can't get both the information, maybe we just work on this letter over email, and then,
Do you have data, Heather, that you could share, like
Our
projections?
consultants about it, they have no additional information yet for us. At this point, we've not heard anything that's directed toward the Medicaid that we're receiving. But we're always on the, I actually spoke with them today.
so when would we,
Say it again?
when would we know,
I don't think anybody knows.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's the concern, is no one is really sure.
right, there's communication.
We can backfill 15 months, and that's where we're just not sure. So we've got money that's been posted that we've not received yet.
Well, Medicaid wasn't part of the rescissions package that was passed, but it was, and the cuts take effect 2 years from now. But I think the letter would be about percentage of students benefiting from Medicaid, and then the difficulty in planning forward budgets and things like that.
We can start talking about that. So
Yeah, we can talk
let's just
offline.
do it Monday, and then we can kind of map it out.
okay. All right. Was there anything else?
No.
Okay, great. Moving on to Board of Education comments. Catherine, we'll start with you.
None?
Okay. Samra?
No comment.
All righty. Kristen?
No comment.
Okay. Chris?
It's good to be back. I just want to say briefly that I'm excited that there's an AI policy on the consent agenda. I think we've needed that. And so I'm happy that we put the policy committee, thank you for putting some thought into what that could look like. So I was excited to see that and just wanted to call attention to it. But other than that, no comment. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Levon?
No comment.
All righty. Eric?
No comment.
Anthony?
Nothing.
Meredith?
So we did have this policy committee meeting. We worked on the AI policy. One thing that came out of that conversation is just that this policy is very narrow, and it's really talking about, a certain application of AI and how to use it. But it kind of sparked a larger conversation about just how are we teaching and the culture of education and how this will impact that. And we all agreed that we really need to push that conversation forward. So we'll be talking more about that for sure.
And just quickly about the policy, we have 2 other policies that we want to bring on August 11th for a first read. One is a conflict of interest policy that speaks to tutoring and coaching, and the other is an advertising in schools policy. And then we have some, I think, are pretty minor changes to our code of conduct. Like, it's just changing kind of like the verbiage of phones, essentially. But any change to the code of conduct obviously has to be approved by the board, but we have to do a public hearing for that as well. So we'll advertise that for August 11th. So the whole, all the policies we spoke about aren't all on tonight. We needed to, for the conflict of interest in the advertising in schools, we needed to do just a little bit more legal review on before they go to the board. but those are coming too, and will be super helpful for us.
Yeah, and when we have the cell phone policy, and that's it.
All right, great. I have no comments. So we will move on to approving Meredith Hewer as advocacy liaison with the New York State School Board Association. Basically, this just means that Meredith will represent the board when NYSBA has its annual business meeting to determine what its legislative advocacy priorities will be. And so everybody in the state submits their resolutions, and then our board representative votes on those resolutions. And then it sort of drives their advocacy agenda for the year. So this is a roll call vote. So Vicky, take it away. Oh, I guess I should do that too. It's summer. So can I get a motion to approve? This is 9.0 appointment. 9.01.
So moved.
Second. Comments or questions? All right.
Yes.
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 After deep thought, yes.
You just want to drive to salt.
Yes.
Yeah, I can vote on this, I assume.
She trusts herself.
Abstain.
Passes 9-0.
The big vote.
Oh, all right. On to the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Are there any items that any board members would like to have removed from the consent agenda?
I have one.
Sure.
12.21, U, Winter 1.
UW1, all right. Any more? Okay, can I have a motion to approve 11.01 through 16.04 minus 12.21 UW1?
And I guess it would also be the less the.
Oh, right.
HH1.
HH1 and EE1, yes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second by Meredith. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 9-0. Can I have a motion to approve 12.21 UW1?
So moved.
Second by Meredith. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstaining?
Abstain?
Passes 8-1. Okay. Oh, so 8-0. I always forget. It's not a negative. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
I'm fired tonight, Evelyn.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
It's 9-0. Good night.
Been a very long day.